Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our channel. This is Making Light to Humans Being. I'm Julie here. As always, with me in the other Zoom frame is my good friend, Kate Foggo. And this is the show where we talk about, the two of us are intuitives. We're actually soul level animal communicators and soul level intuitive coaches. And we talk about the fact that we have this intuitive abilities, and to some degree we can see the spiritual side of things, and yet at the exact same time we are humans just trying to get through. So we talk about that duality, the differences, and how we integrate the two, or sometimes we don't. And so that's what we talk about. And so today we're going to talk about, what are we talking about today, Kate?
Time shortage consciousness, or I think that's the phrase, isn't it? Time shortageness.
Time shortage consciousness. Yeah. Okay.
So how that had come up, Julie, was I had a session with my friend Louise. I'll put her stuff in, who does mind body. Oh, I can't remember the official term, but basically she helps me work with the pain in my body. And she was reminding me how, and this is a good thing for everyone to remember, is when you remove the stressors of your life, there is an expectation that you'll get instantly better. Like if something's causing you stress, and I get symptoms of pain and stiffness and stuff when I'm stressed. And to the reference being, I have given up the shed, so I should be like flooded with happy endorphins and all that, but it doesn't work like that. And it's a reminder that just because you remove the source of stress, your body still has to adjust. Your body is not responding on the timeline of your brain. Your brain goes, right, that's that, fixed, fine, right, get over it. And your body's going, well, hang on a fucking minute, still suffering. So, but as one of the exercises she gave me to do is to go back to writing, because I like writing, and I like automatic writing, and I did go through phases where I write with my guides and stuff like that. I haven't done anything for a while, admittedly, but this wasn't, and I forget the name of the guy that she was following in particular. But basically, you had to write down all the stresses in your life, and then write another list of what was currently affecting you right now, and past stresses of all of that. And then you chose one or other of them, and you did like a mind map, I think. So no meaning attached to it. You literally just draw it in a bubble, and then your other thoughts around it, and sort of map out without censor what is going on and what comes to mind. And then you did an exercise where you actually then wrote longhand, again, no censoring, no correction, just writing about your observation of all of that. And then the third and final step was to then not edit it, but work out what you had learned from doing that. So there was prompts all the way, and it was very interesting. And it was a bit like, oh fuck, like more stuff. Like on the one hand, I understand the benefit of it. On the other hand, I felt a lot of resistance, and I thought, well, actually, it means I should do it. So I picked time shortage consciousness, which is always an issue for me. And we've talked about this endlessly, Julie, with all our episodes on busyness. And what occurred to me as I was writing it, as I was doing the mind map, that's probably as far as I got, actually, to be honest, as I was doing the mind map, was the sort of things that actually cause that feeling are either external circumstances. It's basically you thinking you have more to do than you have time to do it. So it's the classic overwhelm. So overwhelm, someone defined it once as needing more resources than you had, essentially. And I think that's a very good way of whatever those resources are. So like it's that when you put it that way, like it's not judging you on what overwhelms you, because actually it doesn't matter. It's this feeling that you haven't got enough of time, energy, money, whatever to deal with something. That's what causes overwhelm. And I was thinking, well, under what circumstances why do I ever feel like that? Why can't I just, it'll get done when it gets done? And I thought that all the things in my world anyway that cause that are external things, which are either rules, laws, you've got to get the insurance done, or you don't get your license for your car, you could get in trouble, and all those. And like, how important are they? I don't know. You could argue some of them not so much, others very important. Again, we all make our choices. Or it's an expectation either by someone else or you on why or when something needs to get done. And then what occurred to me, I was going to go into Eckhart Tolle's story, but before I do you want to comment on any of that?
Yeah, the overwhelm thing, I keep finding for myself, I keep finding that like inspired action, I'm inspired to do something. Like with you were saying about writing, I too have found this writing path all of a sudden, and so I'm inspired to write, and I'm finding that I actually really enjoy it much more than I thought I would, and so I want to spend more time doing it. And yet I have that the board that I chair, I have the I have all the things, and then I also still want to grow my business and help all these people with their animals and with the guides and all that type of stuff. And I'm just like, wait a minute, like what gives? What gives? And I'm a little worried that I have folded my plate. I have filled my plate back up again. And where's it gonna go?
And people who suffer from time shortage consciousness, you and me, basically, all those things, all those episodes we did over Christmas, which were all iterations on the same theme of just not having enough time. As long as we are in that mindset, we will never have enough time. So that's what my mind fuck. That's there's a
Freudian slip for you. That's what the guides really want you to say.
yeah, this is what my mind fuck was about. It was like, why do I have to get this done by a certain date? Whose rules are they? If they're my rules, then I have to learn to let go of them. Or, and interestingly, I've been reading The Big Leap, still reading it, which Danielle McKinnon recommended to us. We had an interview with Danielle McKinnon. I can't remember if she said it in the interview or if she said it afterwards, but anyway, you can watch that interview on YouTube. But part of the big, oh, I've lost my thread now.
Big leap, time.
Oh, he talks about working in your zone of genius, he calls it, and it's very enticing. I mean, I've got as far until I actually need to start making commitment, and I've slowed down. But working in your zone of genius, he says, you always time expands to fill whatever you want to do. That time flows, it doesn't fly. It's all of that, and it's like, and we all know this to be true. If you read about law of attraction, you read about any, and even all the spiritual parts that talk about when you are in your creative zone, that things just happen. And we did this with you, Julie, when we did the extreme self-care, where you were focused entirely on looking after yourself and feeling good about yourself, and problems would come up and disappear before you'd even addressed them, and they would just inexplicably dissolve or fix themselves or become irrelevant, whatever way. If you can get yourself in that zone, we all know this happens. So when you're in this time shortageness consciousness, you are creating more and more and more busyness. It's almost like for it to stop, you have to stop, and we all know that as well. I'm losing my point again.
Can I comment?
I can go back to Eckhart Tolle, but you can comment on that.
Okay. Yeah. So when you were talking about time will unfold, when you're doing what it is you want to do, or love, or you're in that flow, time will unfold, which it's just reminding me of the episode that was 2 episodes ago on the inspired action. Because when we feel inspired to take action, meaning we're present and we're in the moment, and it's like, what do I feel like doing right now? And even if it's not doing anything, even if you feel like I just need to rest, and when you honor that and follow that path of where even your body's wanting you to go, or where you're feeling you need to go, not thinking you need to go, what all unfolds can actually be really kind of cool. So I just wanted to.
And it is, and it's all about trusting, because your immediate reaction is, but I need to do this first. Yeah. And that's another thing that I do. It's like I have a list of everything. I am not allowed to do anything until I've done this first. And yet I never, ever, ever. I mean, one of my first conversations I had with my sister about the observation of this is, she's like, it's not about getting through your list, Kate. There's always going to be a list. It's about doing things in spite of the list. Mm-hmm. And you're like, what? Oh, what do you mean? You're talking nonsense. But it is the list. Have you ever got to the bottom of your list?
No, and I actually even rewrite them, because I, tick some stuff off, and then I can't figure out what I should prioritize. So then I rewrite the damn thing. How I will also say, though, since we've talked about inspired action and just kind of being in the flow, and also I want to say like the last quarter of last year, I just got really overwhelmed. I felt super unfocused. I didn't know what, I mean, there's just so many things I want to do. And it was like, oh, and I felt like I had to harness them all, much like when you said, close the shed, I should be pain-free. I'm like, I'm just going to harness all these and then everything will be lined up and then we can move forward. What I'm finding is what I've tried now is I have the to-do list, because there's some things like I just want to make, well, I'm getting trapped again. But anyway, I have the to-do list. And I actually closed my notebook. It's in, this is my like work reality based notebook, if you will. And then I have a book for intuitive stuff. Anyway, but I have the to-do list in there. I leave the book closed. And then at the end of the day or every other day, I go and I look and I see, oh, look, I took care of that. Oh, look, I took care of that. Because I'm letting whatever comes to mind that, oh, I should do that. And that feels good. And it reminds me of when Abraham Hicks talked about needing to buy plane tickets to go somewhere. And she didn't do it. And she didn't do it because she just waited to see when she felt inspired to buy these plane tickets. And the day she did, they were having a big sale. She ended up getting them for like, I don't know, 2 for 1 kind of a thing. But she allowed the universe to help guide her to do what she needs to do when. And so I'm actually finding it works.
Yeah, I'm not there. I mean, I believe it does.
Yeah.
I'm better than I was. But well, this is so the story, the Eckhart Tolle story, and this is a testament to the fact that I have actually changed a little bit. The first time I heard this story, it was just like Eckhart Tolle talking, and he was saying how he won't be held to timescales or anything like that, you know, and you're thinking, oh, fucking bully for you, right? That's fine for you, Eckhart, to sit there in your castle with your 100 million minions running around after you. And my next thought was,
with Oprah, all the things. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, to hanging with Oprah,
Yeah.
like somebody shows up and takes you there. You don't have to do it, you know, nasty little thoughts, you know, because then the thought that came up most strongly about all of that, and that's the source of my resentment, because I mean, if Eckhart can get away with never having to give anyone a time, I'm a bully for him. But what came up for me was like, yeah, and for everyone like you, there'll be someone like me running along behind you, mopping it all up, making it all work, you know, poor me, poor Kate the victim, I'm the one that has to, you know. And this is the really small-mindedness of humanness that comes out, and it's like, I can't bear for anybody else to be having a good time when I'm having to work really really hard, you know. But it's the meanness that you're doing this at my expense. But the difference I felt this time when I thought of this, and I thought, because it made me really angry along the line, and I remember thinking, can you imagine working for someone like that? Can you imagine? And I suppose I have worked for people like that. They probably weren't as nice as Eckhart Tolle, but you know, people that would, you know, demand that you did X, Y, Z, but give you absolutely no parameters. So you know, you'd be stuck in this magnificent indecision of knowing you had this really huge thing to do, but actually having no facts, figures, resources, budget, or anything to do anything with. So you're carrying all that stress. And I was thinking, that's what it must be like to work for Eckhart Tolle. It's like, you know, I want a conference. Let's talk about time shortage consciousness. And, you know, I'd be there going, yes, okay, Eckhart, where do you want that? And he'd go, well, I don't know, we'll see what the universe says. Well, when do you want it? No, I'll let you know. And you'd be like, oh, you're just like, you know, you're only able to stay in your beautiful little bubble because Muggins is running around doing all the crazy stuff. What I thought this time, that when I read this, so I obviously have grown my consciousness somewhat, was, do you know what I would say now to Eckhart if I was his PA would be like, that sounds like a great idea, and I'd just write it down, and you can get back to me when you know when that's going to be, right? And leave it at that. Whereas the old Kate would have built 1,500 possible scenarios, got in touch with everybody that could possibly ever be involved, and irritated them as well, because by saying stand by, I can't give you any more information, just be ready for this, what it is I don't know. So they'll be all like, what the fuck, now you've got me on high alert and I can't do anything with that information, you know. But it's perfectly okay, isn't it, to say, yeah, okay, we'll just, you know, if you learn to trust that as and when the universe tells Eckhart it's time to have his conference, a magnificent conference facility will become available. You know, if you had that trust, you don't have to do all the running around that you and I do, and all that craziness that usually results in absolutely nothing. Because I mean, you must have had it in your corporate life. I would organize something, and it weeks, months, years doing it, and then on the last day something happens and it all gets called off or it all gets changed, and you think, and you end up reorganizing it at the drop of a hat, and you're like, all that planning and that has all gone to shit. Like a lot of it's, we worry what might happen if we don't get it lined up. We worry what might happen if we don't book the right places. And yet invariably, if it all goes to shit, something happens. May not be what you thought it was, but it all gets worse. And that's the trust I think you need to have in the universe.
Yeah.
So I can now feel I could work for Eckhart, and I'd go, yeah, I like that. Yeah, you let me know when we're ready to do that, and not go away and cry. But just, I do feel I've grown a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yay. Let's just celebrate that for a
Yeah,
moment.
let's celebrate that.
Yes, that's awesome.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Do you know what? That's what the drag queens do, and I assumed it's because they had really long nails, but apparently it's a literary thing. I can't do it with this hand.
Like it's a beat poet thing is how I equate it too. I know Germans, when I lived in Germany, we would knock on the table. Instead of doing this, we would knock on the table. I don't know. Whatever makes you happy.
I'm sure I read somewhere that it was like poetry readings and stuff like that, because it's a way of showing applause without being loud.
Yeah, that's like the beat.
Right, okay.
They say beat poets, but that's how, anyway, I think of it in a 60s hippie kind of thing, but I like it. Yeah, yay. That whole thing has also just come to light for me in this professional situation that I am in. There's a couple of initiatives that we need to move forward, and I'm realizing, with help from the guides and our colleagues too, is that, and you, in that it's, I have to be really mindful of what is mine to take and what is mine to, I don't even want to say hold space for, because that gives it a lot, there's energy there that I want to push forward. So there's a talk about changing a meeting to a different location. And so I gave the idea to the person that needs to handle it. And that person has come back with excuses as to why that can't happen. And so I'm letting go. Like, instead of me going, well, are you sure? Because when I Google this and this is possible, or when I do this, you can go over here. And I easily want to try and figure it out for this human. That is not my job. And I also realize that there's an element of me placating. There's an element of me making things better. There's an element of caregiving that I have put on myself and set up people so that then they think they can do that with me, which is a boundary thing too, which then sucks away my time. And I'm like, and then there's this other initiative too. And I'm watching, this time I'm forcing myself to watch the interaction between the partner and the person responsible. And is the person responsible going to respond? I am not this time. I'm not jumping in. I'm going to because it's not my job. It's not my job. And so I just I'm playing with right now. It's really kind of fascinating. However, what's also interesting is that for the people that I've set up, that I will take care of whatever ails them, the fact that I'm not doing that right now to the degree that I did, that raises some.
If it's at work,
it works for me.
No, I mean, are these people at work or people in your home life?
No, these are people that professional people that I work with. Yeah. That it's almost like the only thing I could say, the fire that comes back at me, like, oh, you didn't remind me, or you didn't tell me, or all the things on their end that they have to work through. To me, it's just also fascinating, because that's another pull. Like, oh my God, I see.
So what you're saying is you had set or together you have created a relationship whereby they have been dependent on you, and now you're withdrawing that support, and they're like, what the fuck? Well, and we all know, as you all know, also it's a big thing in your personal life as well. As you start to get more autonomy over your time and what you want to do with it, you realize that there are all these implicit, unspoken agreements and arrangements that happen around you all the time that you didn't realize you'd bought into until you try and get away from them. And then there's a lot of hurt feelings.
Yes. And that maybe should be the topic for next week's show, now that we're talking, because we were going back and forth between a couple topics, but implicit agreements.
Oh, I've got a lot on that. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna write that down. Or we're gonna let the guides help us. They're like, I see like all my guides come in and they're like with silver serving trays and like, let us take that for you and we will put it over here. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because that's a whole other thing that just kind of that, because I want to honor that, and then it sucks my time. Go.
No, sorry, I was going to say that feeds actually back into the time shortage industry, because that was the other thing. So you have your rules, forget Eckhart Tolle. That's how we should aim to be in another world. But the things that, you know, so there are either these practical real life rules that you have to meet certain deadlines of your work or your, but I would also argue that we actually all have the right to question those. You don't actually have to follow them blindly. But then the other ones are all the expectations, is unspoken agreements with other people that, you know, if you don't do something by a certain time, that you're then letting people down. And that's the other huge motivator that makes people feel that they're running out of time, because there's this expectation that something will get done by XYZ. And quite often, if you actually go, why is this urgent? You'll find there's several layers of that, and you're actually looking at something way, way over in the future that might never happen. And you've built an entire time, because this is the thing about male energy versus female energy and how men plan. So men plan very much, this has to happen, and this is all very sequential. I can't think of what the proper word for it is, but it's all, this is how things happen, and we build project plans and estimates, and you know, if you've done any sort of project planning, you know that's how it always happens. And to the extent that they will then try and force in things that don't fit into that, you know, get very much manipulated in an artificial way into somehow fit in to this logical sequential project plan. And yet most creation, and indeed the female energy, feminine energy, is all about here it is and where it comes from. And it's, you know, there's no, it can't be manipulated and squashed and measured in the same way. And we've all been brought up in a world where it is very much about what you see in front of you, the material things. We have to have these things here by then, and then they will appear here, and then this will happen. This can't happen until this happens. It's all very sequential. That's very male dominated, whereas the females just sort of, you know, oh, well, let's have a conference, and I don't know, where should we do it? I don't know, let's find out later, let's see what the weather's like. That's much more creative. That makes you nervous, doesn't it?
No, I find it fascinating. So in terms of, and I know this word is getting overused to some degree, and I think it's getting maybe watered down or whatever, or weaponized, patriarchy. I can see why the patriarchy is beginning to crumble, because the weight of all of that structure and rigidity, and it's just, and meanwhile, you have this growing population of female energy. I mean, because I'm going between the incarnate and the actual spiritual divine feminine. Anyway, but you know, just can be so much light. This has stuff too, but this can just be so much lighter. And oh wow. So anyway, sorry, I've been fascinated with the patriarchy of late. So.
Well, this is it. You can't. Thing is, you can't. There are so many things in life that don't fit a project plan.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do if it all gets blown up over here? Then what happens?
Right.
And so I would say that there are, you know, so one thing that you have to do is question, why am I attached to this? Why do I, because that's what I was going through in my little mind fuck, you know, why am I attached to doing this? Why do I feel I need to achieve X, Y, Z? I'm not working for a corporate company. This is a self-imposed deadline. And it's actually looking, well, why? I mean, a lot of it is just the need to be busy, which you and I have discussed. It's like, well, you know, I need to be doing that. Pointless, utterly pointless. You know, if we had, it's just, we've had so many years of being told that your rewards are all tied up in how long you knuckle down and work hard on. Whereas you know, we have people floating into our lives now, the Eckhart Tolles of the world, going, no, it's all about how you feel. You know, go and sit in your massage chair, go and sit in the garden and put your face up to the sun and think about what a beautiful life it could be. Go and have a walk in the fields. You're going to achieve a lot more. And we're like, don't be ridiculous. That sounds like fun. Wouldn't do that, you know. So there is a lot of my time shortages is constraints that I have put on myself of expectations. So it's expectations that others have on me, it's expectations that society has on me because they expect me to pay my mortgage on time or whatever. But they are all constraints that other people have put on me. Yeah. And it's whether you buy into that or not. I'm sort of unraveling a bit here. It was very clear when I did my back, but I feel like I'm unraveling a bit. But it, it does make me sort of question, well, do I really, is there really an urgency to do this? Why am I attached to the outcome of when this has to happen? That's really where I got to. I wrote it down far more succinctly somewhere in another book.
I don't know what else to say.
No,
That's wonderful.
No.
Yeah.
It is a fascinating thing to observe, though. But I think what I got back to really was, at the end of the day, it was all about, I don't want to say people pleasing, because that's a bit patronizing to me, but it's not. It's about expectations that other people have, or that I have of myself, of what I am expected to produce on a daily basis. Or it was about obeying rules, be they rules from other people's expectations, or from society, or from the government, or whatever. Otherwise, we'd all be able to go, not today.
Yeah.
If you didn't, why? But what is interesting, and I keep trying to come back to that myself and remind myself of that, is when you did that experiment with extreme self-care, is that if you can get yourself in the zone, it'll take care of itself anyway. Like, something will happen that either makes it irrelevant or it will fix it for you.
And it's far more enjoyable.
Yeah.
More enjoyable. And we can stay in that higher vibrational, happy, pleased, joy state.
And yet when you're in this, you don't believe it. You don't believe it. You can't see it.
Yeah. And you know what you're making me realize is that we've been doing this YouTube show for 2 years longer. I still lived in Anchorage when we started, so I'm having trouble. No, it might be longer, Kate. Anyway,
I've got the webpage up somewhere. Hang on.
Okay. I will just say that as I look back, the onion that is time that we're talking about today, but I'm looking back at what we've talked about, and we've talked about what it means to contribute to your household, because both you and I had big jobs. I lost my job, you stepped away, right? But that disengagement from that level of go, and I'm making X amount of money, and I'm contributing, and this is what I'm doing, and all the things, and look at me, and all that. And we've been working through kind of peeling that onion back. And like, this idea of time is coming back again, because I feel like, well, my guides are saying, like, it's time to kind of look at, what is time? What is time? How do we want to spend time? What does it mean to be time? And I was telling you earlier, and I meant to bring this, we just did an Instagram live, and I meant to bring this up. Astrologically right now, particularly for me, I'm a Taurus sun, but a Leo rising. And I'm learning all this stuff too, by the way. So this is all new, but this is a really strong time for me to collaborate with others. And I'm like, oh, look, Kate, we're going to do an Instagram live. We're going to do this. And so we're collaborating. And why am I doing? Oh, because it keeps me in this state of joy and happiness and creativity. And from that, things kind of peel further back. So I'm curious to see where all this goes, as we adopt the Eckhart Tolle. Oh, so you want to conference now? But then, okay, great, let's go.
Yeah. Give me a ring when you decide when it's going to be.
Yeah.
There's so much relief in that. I'm sure I've mentioned on, I actually spoke to him, I'm sure I've mentioned on this before about Be More Craig. I had this colleague at work, and he'd just be like, nah, when I'd be like, oh, it's all gone to shit, and he'd just be like, yeah, whatever, and yet he just wouldn't buy into the drama. You'd be like, but we forgot to do whatever, and he'd be like, his basic, it was written all over him. We'd be like, listen, we all work hard, we're all responsible people. If we fucked up, there's good reason for it. Let's not get excited. And you could watch these really senior managers just calm right down, whereas I'd be like, because I'd be immediately defensive. Oh, we didn't do this, and he'd just be like, whatever.
You just gave me this aha moment. I just pictured myself back in my old advertising agency office, and the president of the agency freaking out. I was the head of account management, and the head of the agency freaking out about something, and I'm like, whatever, it's going to change tomorrow. Like just being mad. And that attitude would set her off. Oh my God. And I felt, and here's the thing, every time chose, I still do it. I did it the other day with Lucas at daycare. I make a choice at any given moment when someone's at me, that it's either their fault or it's my fault. And I always pick it's my fault every single freaking time.
Yep. Yep.
And I remember sitting there every single time because she'd be all upset, like, why aren't your knickers in a twist, Julie? Why aren't you like freaking out about this? And I'm like, man, it's gonna, whatever. Because one, I kind of didn't care. Two, I really didn't care because it was like, it would work out. I just knew this was before I had really kind of worked on my intuitive skills, but I knew in my gut it would work out. It didn't matter. And none of this matters. None of this is on our tombstones. None of this. I mean, really, like I got shit done on time was not going to be something on my tombstone anyway. But I just remember feeling like I wasn't good enough to do my job because I couldn't get to her state of excitement
that's really weird.
And I just realized I was absolutely fine.
Yeah, I would be in that state of excitement because my unworthiness would be going absolutely fucking crazy. And little Kate inside would be going, I work so hard. I do everything you tell me to. This is your fault. This is your fault. And now you're blaming me, you know, because it would be their fault because they'd have cut the budget or cut the money or cut this or taken the resources off or changed their mind or whatever. And this is why Craig would always just go, you know, we can unpick it if you like, but I think we'll find what's wrong. It's like we all knew what was wrong. We knew what was wrong because they changed the scope every other day, because they pulled people off to do different projects. You know, but I would be like digging out emails that you said, he said, she said, we said, it's not my fault because of my unworthiness.
Yes.
Whereas Craig would be confident and satisfied and happy that he always did a good job and he didn't need to get in a panic. He would just be like, whatever, fine.
Yeah.
Here's where we are, let's sort it out. But I'd be like, but you're trying to blame me and I'm not having it, instead of just going, whatever, it's fine. It's exactly in 1 month's time, on the 25th of March would be the first starting episode.
What year?
In 2 years on the 25th of March.
In 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So we started it just before I left Alaska.
25th of March.
Wow. 2021, huh? Huh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's talk. Well, I don't know. Time is an illusion, but
it is. It's a very scary illusion, but yeah. Sometimes I think, and this is part of it, I just need to get over myself a lot of it. You know, it's a self-importance thing that I should be doing certain stuff that I you know.
Yeah. I'll use the language letting go of it. Letting go.
Someone else said that as well. It's like when you slow down, you know, we wonder why, well, I'm slowing down, why aren't things changing? You did. It was your blog or your email, not this one. It was one before. But you said it's only when you really, really, really slow down that you realize what slowing down is. So you were ill.
Yeah, I had COVID. Yeah.
And I thought that's really interesting, isn't it? Because again, my judgment, I'm doing less than I did when I had a full-time job and was looking after my mother and had this and was commuting. I'm doing less than that, therefore that should be good enough. But you know, everything I get from my guys, you get for your guys the whole time is do less, do even less, no less, no less. And I'm like, well I can't, because you know I'm only doing half what I was doing before. But the reality is I still feel overwhelmed and I still feel stressed. Mm-hmm. But my conscious brain goes, well, you can't do less. Yeah. You can't do less. The world will implode. Yeah. What really happens if I sat here and did nothing but, I don't know, scroll YouTube? Would the world end?
No. No.
Carrie might get pissed off, but you know, as long as I fed the cat and the chickens.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a thought, isn't it?
It is a thought.
Maybe I'll win the lottery. You see, if I could get myself in the right place energetically, I'd win the lottery and it wouldn't matter.
I know. I do. You know what? Here's the other thing too. And we're going to have to come back to this, I think, because I do think this is the onion that we continually peel back on this show. is that because there's still part, well, I'll just talk for me. There's still part of me that's like, okay, but wait a minute. I still have bills to pay. I still have to do all this. But I'm also very attracted to this minimalistic lifestyle. What do I need versus what do I want? We have one car right now. Well, we have a car and we have an RV, but we're even wondering if we let the RV go because we don't use it like we used it in Alaska. In Alaska, we used it every weekend in the summer. Summers are short. We were out, we were doing stuff. Here, we sit on the edge of a nature preserve. It's not the same. It's just not the same. The highways are busier here. It's not fun. Anyway, lots of things. Lucas doesn't like it, something, but we have one car. And I have several people telling me all the time, yeah, but get a second car. You need a second car. And I'm like, why? It's just going to sit in the garage. I work from home. I don't go anywhere. I don't necessarily need to go anywhere because now you can order your groceries online and I can have Brad pick them up on the way home. I haven't succumbed to having them delivered yet. But, all these, where do I have to go? I don't need a car. And what's so interesting is when I have this conversation with people, this need versus want, they're so intertwined because we haven't allowed ourselves to actually talk about need and want. But when I look at needing, I don't need a whole hell of a lot. I really don't. Everything I need usually is on my bed every night, which is my dog and my husband and me. That's it. And a book. That's about it. And water. That's really. So like I could get everything I really, really, really needed in an RV and be done with it. So then when you think about what you actually need, then what actually do you need to have money-wise to sustain that in a society that values money? You don't need a whole hell of a lot. So it's interesting to sit back and think of it in terms of that way to maybe loosen up the ties of money and bills and time to allow this other stuff. So, okay, so just FYI, everybody, I'm selling everything. I'm packing the RV and I'm out of here. No.
Well, I think the problem is I saw a really good clip on, it was actually on TikTok. Some random thing came up and she actually explained it very well. It's sort of like, you start off in life, you don't need very much, and then you start, but it's sort of like what you said about needing what you need and what you want, and you don't need a whole of a lot. I am finding increasing resentment to a lot of things that I have to have by virtue of the fact I choose to live in this society. There's a lot of bills and things that I don't care about, I could do without, but I have to have them, and this isn't so much a rule, but I have to pay for oil because I live in this country. There's a lot. And then if you have and that's what she was saying, is like, you think that all you want is money, you get more money, but actually you get more stuff. And when you get more stuff, you need more money to support that stuff. And actually you end up with less and less and less free money or disposable income because all your stuff costs more and more and more. And this is it. We now live in a house that's too big for us and our bills are big. I don't need any of this. I would be quite happy living in not a shitty little house, but like a little stone house somewhere where I'd want the chickens in the house, but no amount of money is gonna let me do that. But I still have this vision that I could live a really, really simple life, and I believe I could.
Yeah, I do too.
But I can't do it here. I'd either have to go somewhere warm or go up country, and I still need money.
Yeah. And
anyway, let's not get distracted by that, because the whole point is, if you're in the right mindset, the money or equivalent will come.
Yeah, or time. Money or time will come. Yeah. Wonderful.
I think that's a good place to.
I do too. Thank you for talking about all that. Oh my gosh, we've got so much. See, that making like two humans being, we're actually an onion and we're just peeling back the layer.
What they find in the middle will be, I don't know, a little toy, some stupid, what do you call those little things? Some little toy that you get inside a Kinder Egg or whatever.
I see a lotus flower. I see a lotus flower.
Okay.
We're just going to go. I have no idea.
Well, I hope you people will all be here to see us.
I hope we'll be here to see it.
Yeah. Oh, shit, lost you.
Uh-oh.
Well, thank you, Julie. As always, it's a pleasure. So I have been Kate. I still am. I create. I'm Kate Fogler.
Great book, by the way. Yes, keep going.
Yes. and this is Julie Hurt, and together we are making light to humans being. We have just done a little Instagram live if you want to have a look. Mind you, this will be after the event, but we were just looking for people to give us some very simple questions for your animals or your guides, just to give us some fodder, if you like, to do a few little readings, let you know what it's like to experience a reading with us. You can follow us here on YouTube by clicking on the bell down here, and you can follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and all the things. If you have any ideas about stuff you'd like us to talk about, please do let us know. I think that covers everything, Julie, does it?
I think it does. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. We are making light to humans being, and we'll see you next week.
Mhm.